Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're tackling something I guarantee almost all of us wrestle with every single day, navigating the tale of our two selves. We're going to unpack the really fascinating psychology behind our digital identities versus our real identities. And as we go through this, I want to invite you to do a little interactive audit of your own digital habits right alongside me. Think of this as a mirror, one that reflects both who you actually are and who you project yourself to be. Let's jump in. So, let's start with a quick hypothetical. Imagine you're finally meeting someone you've only ever spoken to online. You feel like you know them intimately, right? You know their hobbies, their favorite color. You've literally watched their daily achievements unfold. But then you meet them face to face, and suddenly there's this incredibly jarring disconnect. Maybe their energy is just totally different, or they completely lack that bold confidence they project in their captions. They just don't quite match the person you've built up in your head. Section 1, online versus offline Neo. Okay, so let's dive right into this contrast. That super relatable disconnect we just talked about highlights a massive psychological question that researchers are eagerly studying today. Are we actually the same person online as we are offline? Because on one side, we have our digital identity. This is the version of you that is carefully created. We're talking curated profiles, handpicked photographs, a literal highlight reel of your achievements. But on the other side is your real identity, the everyday reality, your genuine personality, your core values, and, yeah, your human flaws. They might overlap a bit, but let's be honest, they are rarely identical. Moving on to Section 2, designing your digital persona. So if we have these two distinct identities, why do we feel the need to design our online persona so differently from our everyday reality? Well, what's really fascinating is that this concept isn't actually new at all. Way back in 1959, a sociologist named Irving Goffman proposed the theory of self-presentation. He observed that it's just a natural human tendency to manage the impressions we make depending entirely on the social situation we're in. What social media has done is basically give us unprecedented control over this exact theory. Online, we have the luxury of time to filter out the unnecessary parts and consciously choose exactly what we want to hide and what we want to amplify. Basically, we curate our highlights and hide the rest of the messy stuff. But why do we do it? Well, bringing this theory down to earth, it really all stems from basic human motivation. We crave acceptance. We want to be admired. We want to be viewed positively. Especially for adolescents and young adults, there is just immense pressure to match up to societal standards, whether that's posting the perfect vacation photo, hitting the ultimate fitness milestone, or just projecting this aura of pure, unfiltered happiness. A 2014 study by Vogel and colleagues hit the nail on the head here, noting that online profiles mainly focus on achievements while minimizing emotional struggles. Now, wanting to share a picture of a killer outfit or a new job promotion isn't inherently fake. It is completely normal to celebrate good things. The danger only arises when the image we present becomes so entirely detached from our actual reality that just keeping up the act starts creating immense emotional stress. Which brings us to Section 3. The trap of social comparison. That emotional stress leads us perfectly into the next phase of our digital audit. We really need to explore the psychological toll of scrolling through everyone else's carefully curated highlight reels. This whole dynamic builds heavily on another classic idea, Leon Festinger's 1954 social comparison theory. Festinger explained that we naturally evaluate our own abilities and self-worth by looking at the people around us. But on social media, the playing field is completely rigged. We are unfairly comparing our real, flawed, behind-the-scenes selves against highly edited, filtered, and heavily curated versions of other people's lives. And the results of this unfair comparison are actually quite stark. Research by Apple and colleagues in 2016 details the toll of what psychologists call upward social comparison. It's directly linked to lower self-esteem, greater body dissatisfaction, and even higher levels of depressive symptoms. Now, it is absolutely vital to understand that social media doesn't directly cause poor mental health all on its own. But this excessive, constant upward comparison gradually erodes how we evaluate our own worth and our own achievements over time. Section 4. Chasing likes and validation. And how exactly do we typically measure that worth online? Through engagement. I want to pause for a second here and ask you directly for your audit. Do you associate your self-worth with online reactions? Think about it. The next time you post a photo, ask yourself, are you posting it because you genuinely enjoy the picture, or are you secretly obsessing over how everyone else is going to respond to it? Here's the thing. When we rely heavily on external validation, the likes, the comments, the shares, we actively weigh down and weaken our intrinsic self-esteem, which really should be coming from personal enjoyment and self-acceptance. Relying on external feedback for your happiness is an incredibly precarious game. It triggers significant anxiety the very moment your engagement numbers start to drop. And this dynamic is intensely magnified for adolescents, whose identities are still actively developing. According to Odgers and Jensen's 2020 research, peer acceptance is the absolute main driver of identity formation. Today, that feedback is instant, and it extends way beyond just the local neighborhood. But let's keep a balanced perspective here. It is not all doom and gloom. For teenagers who might really struggle to find acceptance in their physical surroundings, finding supportive online communities can actually dramatically reduce isolation and build some much-needed vital confidence. Section 5. When two worlds collide. So we have these two worlds, the physical and the digital. But let's face it, keeping these two identities completely separated in little boxes is just no longer possible. The boundaries are undeniably blurring. Employers are actively checking digital footprints before hiring, and deep, meaningful relationships often start through a screen. So the crucial point is this. If there's a severe lack of authenticity in your digital identity, it creates totally unrealistic expectations. When that digital illusion shatters in face-to-face interactions, it leads to a gradual but very significant decline in interpersonal trust. Furthermore, the immense pressure to maintain this digital identity means we are just constantly connected. Which brings up another really huge question for your personal audit. Are you recording the experience, or are you actually feeling it? This constant connectivity often forces us into a state where we're basically performing our lives for a digital audience, rather than genuinely experiencing the beautiful moments happening right in front of our own eyes. Finally, Section 6, Finding Your Digital Balance. Okay, so if you're feeling a little overwhelmed by this audit, take a deep breath. Going completely off the grid and throwing your phone into the ocean isn't realistic, and frankly, it's not necessary. What we really need is a harmonious balance. So here's your roadmap to harmony. First, intentionally limit unhealthy comparisons. Next, make it a habit to take regular, scheduled breaks from your feeds. Third, pause and be incredibly mindful about why you are sharing something before you actually hit post. And finally, constantly remind yourself that online content rarely represents a complete life. Parents, teachers, and professionals play a massive role here in promoting digital literacy, helping all of us build a self-awareness that exists completely independent of digital approval. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, truly provocative thought to chew on. Next time you look at your phone, look at your profiles, and ask yourself honestly, is your digital identity a tool for meaningful connection, or has it just become a measure of your personal worth? It's time to take control of that narrative. Thank you so much for joining me, and keep questioning the world around you.